have no embarrassment when it comes to what I did on that album. You know, I mean, I worked with somebody on, I think, 4 or 5 songs on that record. I pulled my weight when it came to my pen. It wasn't like I just, you know, it wasn't like I needed somebody to facilitate, you know, entire ideas. We worked together.
There is no longer any room for maneuvering for this individual when it comes to Drake. He can no longer avoid the truth because, in spite of what Ovo and his fans have attempted to conceal with the most recent leaks, which assert that Drake didn't even compose his most intimate lyrical songs, such as his timestamp records, there has never been more evidence that Drake is the biggest hoax in hip-hop and that everything he has ever stood for is a complete and utter lie. By examining the history of these reference songs and turning Drake's own status and remarks about his past treatment in the music business against him, it is now more evident than ever that he was never an artist and was only ever a brand. Before we delve deeper into this and reveal Drake's credibility as an MC in a way that will alter your opinion of his entire career, please make sure to subscribe and like this post. Drake and his supporters don't want anyone to know about this narrative since it has the potential to completely alter everything. Leaving that like has never been more crucial. However, in the case of Drake, when the 3 reference tracks were leaked by a rapper going by the names of Mula and Chapo, Drake fans and others attempted to dismiss them as phony without further consideration. Some others thought it was so absurd that they attempted to make small jokes about it, saying that Kendrick Lamar's classic songs used similar reference tracks. Since it will be difficult for anyone to sit down and declare that these are not real after learning the true story behind these reference tracks and seeing who they are truly coming from, these guys' time for jokes is over. This is true both from delving deeper into the matter and from seeing what other people have discovered about it. And once more, things might be different if this had been another artist. However, as we already know, Drake has a lengthy history of doing these things. To set the stage for Drake's ghostwriting, if we look through his catalog, we will find references to songs from all of his albums that have been released and that we have all heard, from If You're Reading This, It's Too Late to Scorpion, to Her Loss to For All the Dogs. Because of these things, the individual already has a terrible reputation. The 3 new reference tracks in question, which are included in the songs 5 a.m. in Toronto, 4 p.m. in Calabasas, and Draft Day, all of which are regarded as some of the most crucial lyrical performances Drake has ever given, are now contributing to this historically terrible record. If anyone thinks that Drake wrote the Hard Part 6 and these tracks are from the same pen, then things are looking really bad for him. Now, since one man has made the connection between the enigmatic and faint traces that no one else knew what to do with, a lot of stuff is now becoming clear. The individual in question is a man who goes by the name Real J. Nolan, because he accomplished some of the best work in revealing minuscule facts that are altering the way that everything is perceived. His discoveries concerning this whole scenario are currently beginning to gather a lot of traction. He is excellent at what he does, so be sure to support him and check him out elsewhere. By demonstrating to everyone that the rapper who created these songs isn't just a nameless individual acting for influence, but rather has a legitimate background in the music business, he has helped unravel the mystery surrounding all of this and made Drake's situation appear worse than it has ever been. The first is that Mula was formerly signed to Harvey Mason Jr., the current head of the Recording Academy. Therefore, that alone says a lot. It turns out that this man has several years of experience in the field. He has worked with many well-known artists as a professional writer. We can argue at the very least that most people would not fabricate such things given his contacts in the sector, as their actions had the potential to destroy their entire reputation. However, Jay Nolan's most telling discovery about this rapper goes beyond that. He discovered that this MC, who goes by aliases including Chapo and Mula, was formerly very close to Boy Wonder. Naturally, Drake has worked with Boy Wonder from the beginning of his career, making him one of his preferred producers. You tell me what's happening here after discovering actual logs and timestamps of this guy's and Boy Wonder's friendship, and even learning that the two were working on a whole collaborative record at one point. From having actual connections in the industry with some of the biggest names in it, to actually working with someone as close to Drake as you can get, I mean. All in all, these reference songs do appear to have every reason to be authentic, since Mula has provided us with a true story to support all she has said. If Drake had never been found employing ghostwriters before, perhaps this discussion would come to an end and we could overlook him. However, given that we hear the same tale repeatedly, it appears that this is consistent with events involving individuals such as Quentin Miller. It appears that this man is just another somebody who became Drake's pen. Aside from all of this, which is already hurting the greatest loser in hip-hop, it merely supports the notion that Drake has been lying to us for a long time and that his music has been released and presented for a while, not even as an artist but as a brand. Prior to the feud and Drake's demise, Drake was regarded as one of the top musicians in the latter years of his own company and the artists who were most significant. In fact, Taylor Swift was the only person who was ever in direct line with Drake. Since the biggest names in the industry, like Taylor Swift, have access to the best writing and talent teams because they are so crucial to the music industry as a whole, it is clear that the industry used to push Drake whenever they could. Drake's fame even reached a point where he began to ignore rap in favor of being as much of a pop star as possible. To ensure their songs are consistently successful, the label provides artists with all the resources they might possibly need. The idea that Drake would have the same resources at his disposal doesn't seem all that far-fetched, really. For example, Post Malone, who was right on Drake's heels in terms of creating mega hits, was known to use ghostwriters on a song called Rockstar. This is because, even in the realm of rap, Drake is compared to big commercial rappers who may have leaned more toward the pop side of things like him, or simply made extremely chart-friendly music that appealed to wider audiences than traditional hip-hop did. Since both of these artists were essentially the same type of rapper at the height of their careers and were contributing to the industry in their own unique ways, it's safe to assume that Drake has been employing writers the entire time if we know that someone like Post has doing so. In addition to all the information about the industry, I believe that as rap fans, we discovered more about Drake's true writing abilities during his feud with Kendrick than at any other time. It was evident that Drake was unable to produce a performance that even made sense in relation to his own lyrical standards, from Push-Ups and Family Matters to The Hard Part 6. And once more, when we ask why Drake never actually released a single with just bars, a timestamp record, during the beef, you have to wonder if it was because he was unable to avoid being discovered utilizing ghostwriters during the most crucial point of his career. You have to wonder if the reason The Hard Part 6 didn't do as well as it did was because he couldn't get other people to write a better song for him, especially given how that record turned out and how soon it was released. In my opinion, this is precisely what took place in this instance. When we examine the history of Drake's pen, and to add further context, compare it to that of any other rapper renowned for his lyrics in hip-hop history, when we consider other notable lyricists such as Kendrick Lamar, Cole, Tyler the Creator, Whale, or Big Sean, who coincidentally all collaborated with Drake at around the same time, we don't see lyrical abilities deteriorating to the point where it sounds like two entirely different artists. This is unless we're talking about artists who have utilized writing teams and are presenting false versions of themselves on tracks. Once more, we can delve further into the history of these reference tracks to learn more about where they came from, but I don't think that's even necessary, because as a hip-hop fan, I ask you, when has another rapper had such a significant disparity between songs and their poetic skills? When it comes to the ability of smaller rappers from all eras to write bars, no one has ever been as inconsistent as Drake, who claims to be a true lyricist, and to do the most authentic things when they are writing their most important songs. This is true even if other rappers we know have used writing teams, such as the greats like Jay-Z, Nas, and Wayne. From an industry perspective, which could explain why Drake's latest album bombed, he simply lacked the resources to ensure his music would always succeed, even when it was terrible. To the obvious decline in his writing skills as hip-hop fans, to the new information revealing that the individual responsible for leaking these reference tracks was once very close to Drake's go-to producer. Any way you slice it, there's never been more evidence that Drake uses ghostwriters for both his popular songs and his most crucial lyrics. With this, I mean, I'm not shocked because Drake has already let us down in every manner imaginable. However, the possibility that his previous music would still be able to stand the test of time and that his legacy would be remembered for the positive aspects of his work is completely gone if fresh material can be released to make this a more significant tale. Because of this, Drake is now doing everything he can to undermine hip-hop following this feud, and his entire discography is beginning to look phony, even his popular albums, presenting us with a version of a man who was never real or who never told us the truth. To paraphrase Kendrick, a rapper with a ghostwriter? What took place? It's simply disheartening. At least we now know that Drake's entire career was a lie, even if he is experiencing the worst hip-hop fall-off we have ever witnessed, in terms of someone simply falling as far down the all-time list as they have. Now, after all of that, tell me, how do you feel about Drake's capture here? Do you believe that he didn't actually write these songs? What, in your opinion, does this indicate about his career overall? What you have to say about all of this excites me. Please remember to like and subscribe if you've watched the entire video. It really helps me out. Now, watch the recommended video to learn how Drake and scholars completely ruined their careers by doing some really odd things in the period soon before this.